It's not the centralized functions like recruitment, compensation, benefits. Any firm starts with recruitment. You don't end up hiring an HR business partner. You hire a recruiter. That's your first phase of growth. You want to hire people, staff them correctly. The second you end up hiring is the HR business partner to create policies. And only once you are reasonably comfortable that they are overloaded, you end up hiring the compensation and benefits people, the HR operations people, right? I think only when the HR business partner is actually sharing these goals. So, for example, they are responsible for revenues, right? And when I say responsible for revenues, they should be responsible for staffing those teams appropriately. If you have only 10 leaders getting in $10 million, and you realize that you need more leaders at that particular level, they should be actually responsible for highlighting this to management. They should be responsible for influencing this decision and saying that we need to build a larger team that are rainmakers for the company. Because this is how we end up growing our business. This is how we end up increasing the intangible capital as well as the tangible capital of a firm. The second important thing that I see happening is, the focus on strategic activities. A lot of time is wasted when we focus on non-strategic activities, like compliance, for instance. It's important, but these are things that are lights on in any firm, right? They are not necessarily differentiators, and they should not be differentiators. These are things that are lights on for any company. Core HR, that's again lights on for any company. The third is the shortage of leadership and talent. I think we all compete in the same market for talent that's slightly diverse in some areas and talent that we share in other areas. It's important to be able to attract and retain talent, and most of the times, the key ask is, are we a good employer brand? How can we improve employer branding? And if this question is asked of HR, we obviously say we can do X, Y, Z events, and we can measure ourselves on LinkedIn through a talent brand index. But the truth is, very few firms in the industry actually do this really well. It's good to have a media team that manages your Twitter, manages your LinkedIn account, manages your Facebook brand, but very few know exactly how to go about this and how they are going to end up delivering it. By setting up a team, you don't achieve anything, right? But by building that insight, by actually connecting with your cream de la creme in the market, do you actually end up creating significant human capital and social capital. So one of the ways that Inmobi is going to play this, especially when it comes to employer branding, is organizing specific events for people that we are targeting and inviting them over to our office on a Friday. They come in and they have a party with us, they get to party with us, they get to know about our various teams, and it's a social dinner as well. And we scout out people who we want to get to our company, because that's a more very specific and aggressive strategy that we can actually deploy. By branding yourselves on the internet, by having a fancy site, it's not going to change things. What's going to change things is getting into these relationships and being more tactical as well. HR technology, this is something that I've faced in both the firms that I work with. Most firms are moving from a particular set of database onto the cloud, and a lot of these changes, need to be done like it was yesterday. And firms like Unilever, firms like Yahoo have taken maybe about a year just to adapt to just moving to the cloud. But in most Indian companies, the expectation that you'll see is that, hey, listen, get this done in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, it's doable. Why can't we do it? So I see a lot of energy around this, and we as HR professionals need to understand that we need to push back in some cases, because there are some things that are doable. It's good to always have positive energy, but to execute well, you need to understand how you need to execute and what resources you need. And finally, I think HR analytics is very, very useful, because the only way you can end up proving most of the things that you end up saying is through data, right? And a lot of the times when people say, hey, listen, engagement is low, what do I do to increase engagement? And you say, do this. And they come back after a year and say that engagement didn't increase. You asked me to do this and I did exactly that. So why didn't it increase? And you end up saying that, let me do another engagement survey and I'll tell you why. Right? So having data is important, but having guiding data that provides really meaningful insights to you much before you even ending up questioning people about certain questions is very, very important. So the predictive analytics of the data that you already have is very, very crucial to you to have a very meaningful conversation. In fact, it's not, I think if we are able as HR professional get this all right, it's not about, business having a changed outlook on HR practices. It's probably the other way that, we understand the business better and therefore we change the way we adopt our practices to suit business, right? I think I'm at the end of my time, but I'm free to take any questions after the panel discussion. Thank you for being patient this year.